Miserable Who Killed Kenny, and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour Wednesdays. And today, I got another fantastic guest. As per, we're gonna be talking. I got Shan.ferments. We're gonna be talking about awesome stuff: beer, education, agriculture, food, Brooklyn Faith, what's going on, all that kind of good stuff. Vacationing, traveling, freelance work. So we are going to get to it. We have Shan up in the building, and let's get this partay on this elixir from Shillings, which is imperial cider, passion fruit with pineapple coming in at.
Hi.
How's it going? How's
Good.
it
How are
going?
you?
I'm
Hi,
good.
everyone.
I'm good. Just over here, describing and trying to get in with this beer from Elixir Imperials from Shilling, actually. So I told you I was trying to get my
Nice.
relative beers going on the cider. So this is from Shilling Cidery, I believe it is,
Yes.
out in Washington. And like I said, this is a Imperial Passion Fruit and Pineapple cider that's coming in at 8.48%. So I'm excited to see what this is going to taste like. What you sipping on over there?
I've gone. That's a great place, by the way. I love the guys over at Schilling. And their tap room is actually about, I'd say, a 20-minute walk from me currently. It's a great tap room. They always have, I think they've got like 40 different ciders on at all times. It's really pretty. It's pretty cool. If you ever come out here, man, I'll take you around. That's there's a lot near me. um,
Down.
I'm sitting down with the Arctic Cat cold IPA from Colshan, which I just saw Wes and the folks up there in Bellingham, which is about an hour and a half from me here in Seattle. And this is, I don't think this is a newest release, but it's definitely a newer one. And it's got Mosaic, Citrus, Simcoe, and Cascade in it. And I've had a couple, not today. It's only 3:30 here, but I
Hey, I
have had a
support day
couple.
drinking.
Hey, I mean, it's beer, right? But yeah, it's a cool label, but they're great people up there.
And yeah,
Cheers.
cheers. Good to have you on. Good
Thank
to finally
you.
get a chance to speak with you. I've been following your page for a long time, and it's finally good to see and speak with the person behind the page, Miss Cheyenne.
Right
And
back
shout out to
at
everybody
you.
that's in the building. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for joining us on this Happy Hour Wednesday. Hopefully, y'all have something to drink. Hopefully, y'all have something in y'all cups. But Miss Shanley, can you give a quick introduction of yourself and what you do
Absolutely.
over at Shan.ferments?
Sure. So my name's Shanley Thompson. I live here in Seattle, originally Canadian, from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm a food scientist by trade, and what I do for a living right now is I sell hops from Roy Farms Hops, which is out in Yakima area, Moxie. And I've been in the hop game for about 5 years, 4.5 years. Ingredient sales for about 6, and in the beer industry for 8, and then in the alcohol industry for 14. So I've been around for a while. My Shan.ferments page is mainly a page to educate and kind of dissect a lot of these. Well, not a lot, but some of the more nuanced articles that are scientific and break them down and try to get them to be digestible for the average beer, wine, cider, spirits consumer. And then just for me to have a little bit of fun and go around and talk to people about what they're drinking. So that's me in my 30-second elevator speech. I feel like I've met so many new people lately that I've got it down pat now. So it's been, it's been, I've been, I was telling my boss, I think I was just writing them down, at least 30 breweries in the last 2 weeks. So I'm tired, but I'm good.
Exhausted. And this is on some work stuff, or I mean, I guess when you're doing what you love, what's work, you know?
Exactly. Actually, it's work, but it's not. I think a lot of people, um, when they do what they love, they stop loving what they do. And I really can't say anything to that because I still love what I do. I get to go to different anniversary parties, which there have been a lot recently. And I get to talk to people and have a great time and learn what they're doing and just see. It's like going to your friend's party, you know? After a while, you're like, this is so much fun. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of what I do. And yeah, exactly. It's not work, it's fun, and I'm lucky.
And I guess I'm gonna pinpoint that. Well, I guess I ask because I'll probably forget after a few drinks. But when you say some people you don't like love what you're doing anymore because you like get to a certain point, but that doesn't count for you in your instance. How do you feel that affects like brewery owners and brewers?
Oh, I'm sure there are quite a few that can attest that, it is a labor of love. I think after a while, you see some of the burnt out folks or people who m- there are quite a few people in this industry who maybe started this because they thought it, especially during the boom of craft beer, um, thought that it was a quick buck. Everyone's going to breweries, everyone's loving breweries, and they've got extra money. We're going to start a brewery. I like beer. I can drink the beer, and it is really a labor of passion. It's as we're you're not making a ton of money. Margins are very thin. A lot of folks aren't getting paid like what they would in tech, or, especially for long hours and hard labor. It's definitely not as lucrative, if you will, as some other industries would be. So I think, if you're not in it for loving what you do, then you're probably not going to be in it for very long. And I
Yeah.
think like I said, I find myself every day feeling very lucky to be in this industry, but people who maybe don't have that passion, they're not in the industry for very long.
Mhm. Yep, I can attest to that one because here I am home brewing and whatnot, and then everyone who's around me is like, "Are you gonna have your own brewery? You gonna open up your own brewery?" I'm like, when I first started it, I was like, "Yeah, I'm like, I want to open up my own brewery." And then after like just visiting breweries, speaking with people on the live streams, people in face to face conversation and whatnot, it's like, "Oh yeah,
No,
brewery may not be what I want."
no. I mean, I was a brewer for almost 3 years, and I think the second brewer I worked for, the owner said, if you want to make $1 million in the brewing industry, you start with 2 million. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. Um, because I think a lot of people who know me have also asked similar questions, like, are you going to start a brewery? Is that something that you'd ever want to do? And I'm like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No. I really admire the people who have, especially in competitive markets. It's hard. It is hard, and you have to have a great product. And they do what they love, and they work so hard to get those breweries to be where they're at. So I admire them. I admire them. I don't want to do it, but I totally admire them.
Like I help you, I'll support, I'll be the shoulder to cry on, all that kind of good jazz. But I don't want any parts of
No,
this madness.
I'll buy
So
I'll
speaking
buy
of,
as many rounds as you need me to, but I'm not gonna be involved.
so do you still brew? Because I saw on your website that you started off home brewing, or do you still home brew in a sense?
Not anymore. I was homebrewing a little when I lived in Canada. I live in it's I like my spot. It's got a killer view. You can't see it, but love the view. But there is no room in here to brew, and the garage is teeny tiny, so I don't get the opportunity to brew. I do a lot of collaboration brews.
Right.
Um, I was talking to someone though. There was Project Nine had their anniversary, which is a brewery in Seattle. They're 2 years old now. 2 years. Anyways, they host like a pro am competition, and I was talking to the winner of the pro am competition at their anniversary, and I was saying it is impressive. I think homebrewers are so impressive because it's like cooking. It's like baking rather than cooking. That's what I'd say. You have to be so precise about, you're doing grams rather than pounds. You're doing in ounces, and it has to be specific. And it's a small area and it's a small system, and you can't just take a hose to everything. Once I started professionally brewing, I could it's not easy to go back to home brewing because it's like, oh no, I dumped in like half a pound too much of this, but it's in 30 barrels worth of
Right.
beer, so it doesn't really matter.
Mm.
So like the precision on those larger systems, it doesn't make you lazy. I'm not saying that. It made me lazy. Truly. Like it's you're still calculating enough. You're still doing as precise as you can be. But you're like, yeah, no, something spilled on the floor. You just take a hose down and squeegee it off. And like that to me, it was like it's not laziness, but it definitely made things a lot easier. So going back to homebrewing, it's like I have to weigh this out like to the ounce. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that too because in my fair share of being in a production brewery setting, the beer that's wasted, I'm like, that's my whole 5 gallon batch
Yeah.
right there, you know? Like,
Yes.
and they're just like chilling about it, like, oh yeah, we're wasting some stuff. Oh, da, da.
Right.
I'm like,
Right? No, and I
so yeah,
mean that's what happened when I was at Diageo is like and that was hard liquor. Like we'd just be dumping it. I mean, it all goes to like a, a retention pond tank thing, so it's not going into like the sewer. Um, but like, man, especially coming right out of college where you're poor as dirt and you're like, what do you mean we're dumping this much alcohol? Like,
can
what do you mean?
can I take some?
Like, yeah, like, but it's all, like it's all experimental. You're doing experiments, you're testing out new products, you're trying different flavor combinations, but it's a lot. You're like, what do you mean? I want to take that home. But yeah, it was, it's definitely, it was an acquired feeling going into production versus home brewing for sure, as you just mentioned.
Absolutely. So you spoke about baking. Could you compare making beer and brewing beer to baking opposed to cooking? Uh, so segueing into you having your food science background, how does that, um, how do you feel that helps you out in this whole beer industry?
I think it gave me a lot of insight previously to, having being able to deal with yeast more effectively, kind of knowing the systems behind why we were doing things rather than just doing them. I think that to me has been a huge benefit of that background. Um, I think, yeah, just in general, knowing how things work beyond just this is how yeast ferments. It's what are the mechanisms of fermentation and how do you apply enzymology? How and especially in my first few jobs, I was a more technical sales, and we had a lot of different ingredients that we were using, but being able to help people determine what was best for their systems and what was best for their different beers just based on what ingredients we had, but also how those could be beneficial for different water types, different um, types of beers in general, what styles. I think that really helped me out a lot. I mean, not that it's not teachable to anyone, but I think it gave me a little bit more of an understanding
Mhm.
of the depths in which beer is a biological product.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely gives you an edge for sure, because someone who doesn't know about that and, some of the tips and tricks that you have, someone else may not know.
Right.
So you can be like, okay, bet this is how yeast works, or this is how, certain food and certain biology works, opposed to someone who's just like doing it just to do it. And when they come across an issue, you already, you know, gone.
Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, again, a lot of people, and there's folks that know a lot more about brewing than I do for sure, that don't have the background I do. It's not totally foreign, but I think there's definitely elements that I was able to pick up on quicker, just because I had I had had that training before, and I don't. I think I have to catch up with some things, but I'm working on. Washington State University is going to be launching a program, and I'm working on helping them with their curriculum, mainly for the hops and the food science aspects of that. But that allowed me to get into teaching and doing the Shan.ferments and breaking down some of those topics that otherwise, seem kind of foreign to certain people because they don't necessarily have the language of those scientific papers.
Absolutely. So how does one what up JB? So how does one transition from food science? You would think that you would become like a chef or working at restaurants
Well,
or something like that.
okay, so that's the funny thing about, well, yes, okay. Yes and no. So my friends and I, a lot of food science is actually just production. Like you're going into facilities, you're doing production. Both of my friends started out. One of them started out, so she was one of the head product developers of M&Ms out of her master's, and then the other one was at Pringles. She's now at Campbell's Soup. So like it's mainly production work. You don't go into a restaurant setting because that's more hospitality. That's more, creativity. We're on mass scale. Like when you do food science, for the most part, it's mass production of food, right? And we're not. I always say we're the ones who make the Twinkies. We're not nutritionists. We don't tell you not to eat the Twinkie. We're the ones who made it in the first place. We understand why ingredients are added. So I try to shut my mouth when people are talking about like red dye 40 is bad for you. It could be. I don't know. I'm not trying to say it, but I know why it's in food, and there's elements like that I try to like I don't want to get into it kind of thing. But yeah, no, I think food science, I it's mainly at that level, it's mainly production work. And there's some folks that do become chefs. That's awesome, and have a better understanding of how to do that. But for the most part, at least in our program, it was going into a production facility.
Okay, what up, Nisha J? What up? So since you put it that way, that's adding insight to my thought process now. So when you're in grocery stores, do you like look at certain brands differently and be like, I'm staying away from this one. I'm staying away from that one.
Not really. I mean, like I say, everything in moderation. I don't know. There's like it, it changes so frequently, and I think that's just you have to kind of take even every scientific paper in a way that, um, like, what's the bias? Where is it coming from? What is it trying to prove? So in that sense, like I use, Splenda, and everyone's like, Splenda will kill you. That's fine. Like, I don't know. I'm not using very much.
Right.
There's all of these different, so I don't read labels unless I'm like paranoid, and I'm not that paranoid, like I really don't. Again, I treat my body well. I drink alcohol. Apparently that's cancerous. So I don't really, like everything in moderation kind of thing.
Yeah, everything in
So
moderation. We all gonna kick the bucket one day. As long as we might as well, live life how you want to live it.
I'm sure I could live healthier, but honestly, I don't, like they change, the nutritionists change their mind all the time. I know why things are like, if it's a long label, I can read it and be like, okay, well, there's certain stabilizers because it sits on the shelf for 6 months. Like, so
Mhm.
what, like they're not, I can tell you they're not putting very much in. And the one thing that people need to remember is that these companies are not putting ingredients in for the fun of it because that costs them money. So they're not doing it, like they're not doing it unless they absolutely need to do it. And it's going to save them money in the long run, or it's going to add to the stability of it because otherwise they don't want to put it in there
Right.
because it costs them money.
Ah,
So,
okay.
um,
That makes sense. That makes sense. Mel said we wilding on the Splenda. Just kidding. I
that's
tried to
funny.
use Lauren. What's going on? Taps. What's up? What's up? What's up? We have Shan from Shan.ferments in the building, and we're so right now we're talking about food science, and so I was asking, what was the turning point that made you want to like transition from food science to alcohol?
Oh, was always on my mind since I was brewing. That was just, that was always going to happen. I just didn't know how or why or when, but I went into the hard alcohol production. I went into Smirnoff Ice production, and that was fun. It was super corporate. And then I got into the UC Davis brewing program, and that became, much more welcoming. It's a definite, I mean, not that Diageo and corporate alcohol wasn't welcoming. It's just a different vibe, Whereas like I had to wear not a suit, but I had to wear business casual every single day. I had to wear a lab coat. Moving into beer was definitely like jeans, t-shirt,
Right.
steel-toed boots. Who cares if you showered today, kind of thing. And I don't know. It was so much more relaxed and fun, and the vibe and the community was just so welcoming when I started that I really didn't see myself moving back into hard alcohol at that point.
Mm-hmm. And I heard you say once before on another podcast. At one point, I was into hard liquor. I wasn't messing with the beers. I was Red Bull and vodka kind of guy, or apple juice and cognac kind of guy. But now I'm beer, ciders. I haven't had a hard spirit in, well, besides like a couple days ago. But other than that, I can't even tell you the last time I was like drinking hard
Right?
spirits. Just it's too much for me,
I
Have like
completely agree.
one or two cups, and I'm out for the count, and I'm waking up the next
Right?
morning, all hungover and shit.
Yeah,
Not for me.
I I can't mess with that. I don't think I've got my little like margaritas don't count as hard liquor to me. But that's just my only little like it's a margarita. What do you mean? That's not tequila.
Or what about like RTGs, ready to goes?
I like them. I don't drink them a lot, but if I go to a dive bar and I don't know the last time that they've cleaned their system, for example, or I don't really want a cocktail, because a lot of cocktails at dive bars is just free pour and a little bit of mix. It's one of those, I don't really want to have that, so I go for the White Claw or I'll go for the High Noon. Ooh, I saw Brooklyn. She said Bloody Marys all day. I'm a big Bloody Mary fan. I will say, but that doesn't count either. Those ones don't count. Margaritas and Bloodies do not count, and mimosas.
I never really got into Bloody Marys because it's like in taps. Don't get me wrong, I was
Yeah,
drinking hard liquor the other
yeah.
day, but prior to that, it's been some years for
Yes,
sure, for sure.
like I said, I mean, I'll do it if it's in a like heavily mixed drink now, but I used to be huge into bourbon. I loved bourbon, like huge bourbon, huge Islay Scotch fan. I don't know what happened to my palate, but I no longer can handle. Like I've drank a few like Talisker tens, and like it. I don't necessarily want to get back into it. It's an expensive habit to have, first of all. Like I don't need to be buying that.
Only bourbon I'm getting or whiskey that I'm getting is coming from these barrel aged drinks, these barrel aged
Sure.
beers.
Yes.
And
Yeah, no, I used to love that kind of stuff, and I still I kind of miss not being knowledgeable about it, but like I'm not doing it anymore. That's for sure.
and I like that workout to eat out. I like that
That's
name. I like that
awesome.
name. Thanks for joining me. To the Bloody Marys. I haven't gotten into them because whenever I do, it's like tomato juice, and then people put like all kind of like
Mhm.
unnecessary stuff on this drink. Like
Necessary.
it's even in it. I don't know. It's like people be like, "Oh, so imagine like if you eat mac and cheese. It's one
Yes.
thing to eat mac and cheese, but it's completely different if you're drinking mac and cheese. And I feel that's how Bloody Marys are.
Sure, but you're not like, I don't know. I love it because it's like, okay, this Bloody Mary is $20, but I also don't have to order a main either. Like it's got everything I need on it.
But
And then
what do you put on
it satisfies
your
like,
Bloody Mary?
oh, anything that they offer. Pickles, I love pickles. Again, a great fermented product, right? Um, no, I do. anything for a Bloody Mary. Anything needs to be on that. I'm a huge fan. And a Caesar too. So Caesars are Canadian Bloody Marys. They've got Clamato juice, which I like better than just regular Bloody Mary mix because it's like got that umami, like clammy taste to it. I love it. I used to make virgin ones when I took a break from drinking. It's just so good.
Okay, and I guess that would kind of segue into this next question that I have. What is your favorite non-alcoholic fermented beverage?
Ooh, great question. There, there's I mean, I love me some kombucha.
Woo-hoo.
I love kombucha. Yeah, I'm a big fan. There's ones that like have mushrooms in them now, like the GTs, like mushroom
No.
ones.
Mhm.
They're so good. Um, Big fan of those. Some of the non-alcoholic beers are actually coming out pretty nice as well. Um, I can't. I have a really hard time getting into like the cocktails, the non-alcoholic cocktails. It's like, well, then why am I drink? I don't know. I
I'm
don't.
not drinking.
It just it's like juice. It's like why am I? I'll just have a diet coke. You know. Um, there. I mean, I used to be big into kava. There when I lived in Davis, California, they had a kava bar. Still do. I don't know. Um, and I really like kava quite a bit. And there's some really cool products now that have come out with kava as like a shot, so you can use it as a base um, for a cocktail, and it does give you just like a relaxing effect. Now that is also hard on the liver, so people who are drinking and then trying to cut back for their liver's sake, that is not an issue, but it's definitely something they have to be aware of.
So,
Um,
so hold on, wait. So it's kava
yeah.
bad for the liver, or
Yes.
kava mixed with alcoholic? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So that's, I
Continue.
mean, it's, yeah, no, I mean, it's meant to be a non-alcoholic alternative to, but give you like a psychotropic, not psychotropic, but it's supposed to relax you, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, there is that. I have been working a little bit with hard ketones, which is a really cool product. Um,
That-
it's,
I mean, I guess you
it's
could
ketol. Yeah,
explain.
no, it's ketol, which is a ketone-based alcohol. So you do get a buzz from it, but there's no alcohol in it, so you don't get the hangover. Um, Very interesting product. So yeah, hard ketones, they're starting to become more popular. Um, Tasty. I mean, there's certain ones that are formulated, I think, much better than the others. Pina colada is a really good one, but it's one of those like, oh, I don't want to drink, but I want to feel a little buzzed. That's a really good alternative. So I, I mean, the thing is that I'm glad that non-alcoholic beers are becoming more palatable because I love beer. Like that's number one thing. Like I wouldn't if non-alcoholic beers tasted exactly the same as alcoholic beers, I don't know how much I would be drinking of the alcoholic stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to have a good buzz, I like to drink, but I also like to be sober and I don't like hangovers. So, but I love beer. So there's a lot of like, conflicting interests, if you will.
Absolutely. I'm. It's funny you mentioned NAs because we're not alcoholic beers. I'm in distribution, and when I go to my stores and my stops with my accounts for January, I was like, damn, this many people are really drinking. Like this many people are really in tune with dry January, and I'm thinking like dry January is something that like the craft beer people are into, but apparently like a lot
No.
of people really indulge into dry January. So
It's
kudos to that.
I appreciate the concept of dry January, and I definitely have done dry January, and I have done my fair share of not drinking for like a few weeks or a month or so on. But it definitely it hurts. It hurts the market. It hurts local breweries. It's not great for that. So I have to be careful about how much I want to promote dry January. With more places coming out with non-alcoholics, it's been good, but definitely it's not a great month for the local breweries.
Okay, so I can agree with that, but it also could be like a blessing in disguise because okay, bet this give breweries a chance to use like, indulge in like hot waters, hot teas, get a little creative. If you know that dry January is coming, if you're a brewery, dry January is coming. It's like, oh, the plague month. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like promote hot waters, hot teas, well, I won't say NA beers because I heard there's like a whole extra process to get the
Yes.
alcohol out.
Yes.
So like
And
now I'm
you're
deep into
right.
the drinks.
You're right. You're right. And I mean, there are ways like buying gift cards, for example. I think there's still a stigma of people who don't want to go out because they don't want to drink. So like that I think is still an educational piece that like, no, I can't go to a brewery because I'm not drinking, but there are alternatives. But I don't think enough people really grasp that it's becoming more of a um, it's becoming more accepted to have non-alcoholic options, especially during January at a brewery. So you don't have to go and drink. You can go and support the local business without having, without having a beer. But I think there's a lot of people who just associate um, what they want as far as like a beer and going out. So I think there's a few. I think there's still a learning curve for people during January. But you're right, absolutely. I think, and as they grow, as we see dry January grow, and as breweries grow, and we're seeing less people drink, I think alternatives are becoming more popular for sure.
Because like Emily, I rocks with the faded February now.
Oh, I love Emily.
So we got dry January, and then it's October. Um, I don't.
Oh yeah. What is that
So
called?
so is
Yeah.
it sober
Sober
October?
October.
Sober
Sober
October.
October. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So here's my thing, and I'm gonna implement this. I'm gonna start implementing this month. The last week of the month, I'm gonna go on a liquid diet. Like so no solid foods, no
Okay.
alcohol, just water, uh, juice, like juiced fruits and all that kind of stuff. Yogurt. Does yogurt count as is it solid? I don't know. I'm gonna have some kind of yogurt,
Sure. Sure.
just to like wean myself into it. But I figured that'd be a great way to like just cleanse the body of you know the rest of the month.
Sure. Sure. No, I mean that's not a bad idea. I think I get too hungry for that kind of thing. I need to
Me
I'm
too. Me
impressed. That's
too.
awesome.
That's why I'm like, I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Good for
try. So
you.
maybe even this first month, I may go like half the week.
Sure.
Um, just get my body kind of used to a strictly juice diet
Mhm.
for the week at least. So wait, hold on. So Sarah asks, she says, maybe slightly controversial
Hi,
take.
Sarah.
I don't think it's that people don't know there are NA options at breweries. It's that they can't decide to not drink. I can agree
That is also a really good point. That's
with
definitely a good point. I mean, that's just it. Peer pressure is a real thing.
the whole culture of pressuring one another to drink still hasn't died. Why only a liquid diet to cleanse? Um, I don't know. Like I said, I'm still the last week of this month hasn't came yet, so I just got to figure out how I'm gonna rock with this. But I know I want to do like a cleanse at the last week of every month. So, and I just figured maybe it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like so much stuff being processed, and I understand that there is like process to make it uh, on a mass production level, and then there's processes like we adding all this unnecessary stuff into it, and I figure if I just go with the whole juice diet, that I would like eliminate both of those uh, factors.
Sure.
in my take. But like I said, it haven't happened yet. I'm still doing my research and still doing my little studies on what I'm going to do and how I'm going to go about this. But I definitely want to do like a week of like cleansing, and then
I think,
that next week
yeah,
I'm turning back
good for you.
up.
Nice, nice. No, I think that, I mean, like I said before, I'm a food scientist, not a nutritionist. So honestly, I like Sarah is in the fitness space and in the beer space, so she would know way more than I do about any of that. Because like I said, I don't I make the Twinkies, I don't tell them not to eat them kind of thing. But I mean that's just like a very funny high level way of saying it. But there she is. Strength and conditioning coach. That's her official and an incredible human being. You should totally reach out to her. She's awesome.
I'm actually doing that now. I don't know if I sent you a request or not, Sarah. Oh, okay. I sent you a request, which I meant to send you a follow. But since it's in there, feel free to join. If not, don't worry about it. Okay, cool. But
There you go.
I meant to send you a follow for sure, and I'm going to send you a follow. I will be chit chatting with you. Oh no, no, don't even feel bad. I didn't even try to send the. I tried to send a friend request. We got Amy and
Awesome.
Al up in the building. What's going on? We got Will up in the building. What's going on? Like I say, thank everyone for tuning in and vibing out with us on this Wednesday. Bruce and Banner podcast in the building. Amanda, everyone that's here. Shouts out to y'all. I can't name everyone, but y'all here.
That's awesome.
We sipping. We're y'all
We're
sipping on.
hanging out. It's
And
a
we got
Wednesday,
middle
beginning
of
of
the week
March.
hump day.
Hump
What's happening
day.
in March?
Yeah.
What's happening in
It's
March? Speaking of March,
so much is happening in March. She Brew PDX. So it's International Women's Day on Saturday. So I'm heading down to Portland for their International Women's Day big old festival. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited. First time going to She Brew. So a bunch of women, female brewers. Getting together essentially and having a festival and celebrating, what they've made and celebrating women in beer. So I'm stoked about that. And we got Drunk Herstory, which is a group of women who basically put on a show here. So I'm participating in that. There's anniversaries going on. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then, CBC is next month. There's a cider symposium in Tacoma in a couple weeks. It's nuts. It never ends, which is good. To me, I think it's like people. I mean, last year, even post pandemic, people are saying there's the craft brewing industry is taking a dip. People aren't drinking as much. I can see that, but I also it makes me very optimistic seeing all of these different if festivals happening, events happening, I'm stoked about just everything going on in the industry right now. And I think the fact that, Firestone Walker sold out in 4 minutes, their festival. And like we've got one from Fort George that sold out within the day. It is really like to me it's a good barometer of what's going on. A canary in the mine saying like things might not be perfect and there's definitely some struggles going on in the brewing industry, but I think people are still drinking. People are still excited about craft beer.
people are still drinking. People are excited about craft
Yeah.
beer. It's people festivals all day long.
Right?
And speaking of festivals, have you been to the female female beer
I have
festival?
not. I've heard about it. Are you going?
I went last year and I had a blast of a time. And I was like, man, because I'm from Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The event was hosted the event is hosted in Fort Lauderdale, Florida,
Yep.
right on the
Yep.
beach.
Yep.
And I was like, dang, like I've been traveling and doing so much moving around
Yeah.
prior that I was missing the festival. So last year was my first year going, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna be here next year. So
Nice.
it's on my agenda. It's definitely on the calendar to
Awesome.
make the female festival this year coming up. But I went last
Awesome.
year, had a great time. Only thing that's well, funny story. I went down there. My brother and I. My brother is mixed, and he looks like white.
Yep.
So it's him and I were together. We were walking around, and people are like, oh, people are asking him like about the beer festival. And this
Oh
story
my
kind of
God.
can translate into my next topic for you. So everyone's asking him about the beer festival, and I'm like, no one's asking me shit, you know. Like,
Right.
and he's like, oh, I don't know, just I'm with him, and I'm like, oh, now it's not my turn to step in or
Yeah, you're
whatnot.
the industry guy. You're the industry professional.
I ended up missing my flight the next
Of
day. I
course.
had to book another flight, but it
That
all
means
worked
it was
out.
good.
It all worked out because I got time to spend with my family, all that kind of good jazz. Um, so I said that to say it segues way into the next topic of with you. How does like one with your knowledge, your education, your background, your experience, all that kind of good jazz. When you're in a room full of like, well, when you're in an industry that's male dominated, and
Right.
then here you are with like consulting people, and you're giving advice and like real business advice, beer advice, how to make these purchases and all that kind of stuff, and you're doing this to help augment this business, but you're doing this to like a room full of like males.
Hmm.
Is there like any awkward moments, or do you just come in there standing 10 toes down on business? And
Yeah. You got to be the biggest person in the room, and I know a lot of people know me, and they know that I am. But I definitely it is still it's still tricky. It's still a male dominated industry. I definitely have had my share of experiences and heartbreak and industry issues, and like I think every single woman has a similar story or a story about that. But yeah, I mean, as I've gotten more comfortable in this industry, and I can tell you that there are definitely certain communities that are way more um, welcoming of women in them, and I'm really lucky to live where I live, and have the community that I do. But I can say, like, even it really does depend on who you're dealing with. Because again, we had the whole rat magnet thing happen a few years ago, and now that's like 5 years ago. That's crazy. But like, even at that, you're seeing so much pop up that it is, yeah, that it's, you gotta have to just be the biggest person in the room, and sometimes that doesn't even work. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't keep pushing, and there are days where I'm like, this is not worth it anymore. Um, it's happening less and less though, but I've definitely, I mean, you just have to stand up for yourself, and it doesn't always work, because some companies and some folks are just not going to be receptive, and some of them just, that's their culture. They're not going to ever be receptive to that. So, yeah, it's a hard industry, but yeah, if you just have to be, I mean, unfortunately, you just have to be tough if you're someone from a minority group. It's just not going to be easy for you. But I think I want to say it's getting better. I want to say it's getting better because I'm an optimist. So we'll go with that. But yeah, I mean, I've had my share where you're like the same thing. You're at a festival, and I'll be with some friends who are tattooed men with beards, and they'll be the first ones asked about something. And I'm like, yeah, I've been in this industry for 14 years. Hey,
you
it
gotta
is
get a
what it
shirt.
is.
Gotta get a shirt. There with me.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, that would actually be awesome. Oh man, I'm sure someone would buy that for sure. I would wear that for sure. But yeah, maybe that's it. I'll keep that one in my back pocket. I'll
Yeah,
credit you, of course.
whoever gets there first. And speaking of, you have the merch website, and go ahead and let everybody know where to go,
Oh
how to
yeah,
get
if anyone
there.
wants any merch,
Mention.
I still have that up. I mean, it's just my branding. I love tie dye. I'm a huge tie dye fan. So there's tie dye on there with my logo, and it's very comfortable stuff. I love it. I haven't been on my website as much because I've just been so damn busy. I got things I gotta add and change, but it is all there, and there's lots of information about how to get a hold of me, and all of my blog articles, which is also on my Substack. If anyone wants to take a look at that, I just released, pardon me, another one yesterday about cider. And
Cider.
those, yeah, exactly. Cider is I mean, it's always been there, but I think they're doing some really cool things in that community for sure.
I'm actually thinking about, well, not even thinking about, I'm transitioning more into cider making at home. So as far as like brewing beer,
Yeah,
I'm brewing beer at breweries. I'm using their equipment, um, you know, using their resources, all that kind of good stuff. But at home, I'm making cider.
nice, nice.
It's a lot
What kind of cider are you
easier.
making?
So right now, I am making. Are you talking about like what flavors, like the flavor
Yeah,
profile that
like
I'm going for?
what are you using? Apples? Are you using pre-bought cider? Are
So
you
I'm using
like?
apple juice.
Yep,
I'm using apple juice from the store.
nice,
But I know from the store you have to like look out for certain stuff that's not
right,
in there, like the preservatives and all that kind of good
right,
jazz.
right.
So I'm using apple juice from the store, champagne yeast because I like how
The
the
dry.
champagne yeast give it that dry effect.
Yep.
Um, I'm using honey to amp up the ABV
Yeah.
and also get a little bit of extra dryness.
Nice.
And I'm experimenting now, and I know people have heard about me talk about this maybe on last week, but I'm using oleosac oleosaccharum
Okay. Yeah.
to introduce the fruit flavors.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
right now I am working on a peach mango
Ooh.
flavored cider, and I actually have to um, add the peach and mango oleosaccharum plus the what I did was I'm experimenting.
Of course.
So I put sugar on the fleshy parts of the fruit
Hmm.
and see what I get from there. So right now the fruit is like a candied fruit, and I don't know the scientific and correct name for
Sure.
it, but I'm getting the sugars did extract some kind of liquid
Sure.
from the fruit. So I'm going to add that on top of the oleosaccharum, and then I'm going to put the candied fruit inside of the fermenter for like a few days,
Hmm.
and then remove it and transfer it and all that kind of good jazz. So hopefully, I should have a very delicious uh, peach mango cider,
And
and
a dry one.
it's gonna be dry. And see, so
Nice.
since I'm adding so much flavor to it, that dryness should cancel it out from being like too sweet.
And that's what I think people misinterpret about cider because, it mainly was like Angry Orchard for a long, long time, right? And it was a sweet cider. And it's always been, well, not always, but it has been traditionally, at least in the last 20 years, like a sweet drink. Especially the ones that are readily available. And I think that's what's really cool and what I've been learning a lot about is, the dry ciders and what they're able to do beyond just being you know, the fruit, the apple fruit flavor. You can do so much more with it and get these really cool secondary flavors from exactly what you're saying you're doing and using a drier yeast and getting those higher ABVs. I think that's cool. That sounds awesome.
So, well, I'm gonna try and I'm gonna have to wait till you come into the States. Well, I'm gonna try and get you some. I'm gonna try and
Yeah.
get you some. I'm gonna try and get you some.
Sounds like I need to come to Florida soon. I'm just saying.
I've been wanting to visit Washington again. It's funny because my very first time going to Washington State, I was visiting my friend who I grew up across the street from, so
Yeah.
like my brother was, and he was like, "Man, I'm glad you came out here because no one is visiting me. It's like literally going across the whole
Oh,
country."
oh
And
yeah.
I said, say so when I first went out there, marijuana and marijuana was the big thing out, and no one was
Right.
drinking craft beer.
No.
And as soon as I leave Washington State, it's like, oh, this brewery opened up, this
Yep.
brewery opened up, this brewery opened up. Oh, have you went to this one? This, Washington State is now like the, one of the top 10 destinations for craft beer. And I was like, where was this like 2 years ago? So,
I mean, that's just it. It can happen so quickly, and a lot of those places that opened up. I mean, back then, there's a lot of them still around, and it's like it's really exciting to see a lot of those places grow and thrive, and it excites me at least.
mhm. So we talked about beer. Well, kind of segueing from cider, and part of your blog that you did yesterday was dry hopping
Hmm.
ciders, and I took a interesting read in that. Well, that was a very interesting read for sure, for sure. Um, so segueing it, what made you focus on hops and like studying hops opposed to like any other ingredient that's used in beer and other fermented beverages?
So I initially was with BSG RAR, and I focused mainly on malt at that point in my career. And I was very comfortable with that because growing up in Winnipeg, that is a huge component of our economy is malt and grain and wheat and barley, and the processing of was actually a majority of what I studied in my undergrad. So it felt very comfortable to me to kind of segue into malt sales and focus on malt. But then I got the offer to move to Yakima Chief, and I remember Spencer Tiltmeiger, who is the VP of Sales now. He was the person who interviewed me, and he said, we have a almost hyper focus on hops and the knowledge of. So I threw myself into that, and I learned everything I could about that, and I volunteered for extra projects with the company and met a lot of farmers and really wanted to get to the nitty gritty of it. And, it's not hard to fall in love with like the sexiest part of beer, if you will. It's fun because it's like that is the spice. There's so much going on with it. There's so many nuances to it. There's so much happening with that product that it you can become consumed with it. So it was a very easy thing for me to become obsessive about hops and how to grow them and how to sell them and how to provide the information to people. So that's really the long and the short of it. It was really just the opportunity given to me at the time. Um, and it's a fascinating world out there. There's a lot going on with it right now. There's a lot of nuances and changes economically, um, and even in terms of climate change, we're seeing some changes in Germany and Saaz and the Saaz region for the Czech. So there's some. It's very interesting. It's always changing, so it keeps you on your toes, which I really like.
And I know, okay, so speaking of, can you, let folks know a little bit about breaking news or the breaking beer, sorry.
As far
Breaking
as
news.
like breaking news in the hop world, is that what you mean?
Uh, your blog,
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, gotcha.
breaking
I was
breaking news.
like, do you want me to talk about the blog or actual news that's going? Yeah, no. So I have my blog, which I wanted to do like every 2 weeks, get something going because there's just so much going on. But I do have a blog that focuses in on really all fermentation. Since I've been at CiderCon, I've focused the last couple articles on cider, but I mainly do a lot of hop articles. And I work a lot on like, there's always new research coming out about different elements of hops, the history of and how that affects, supply chain. So it's my blog. It basically is breaking down new articles about the fermentation world. So that's on Substack and my website. So yeah, like and subscribe for more, right?
Okay. Hey, listen,
But I
shameless
am trying. It's
plug.
monthly.
Drop
It's
them.
monthly. I'm trying to get it back down to every 2 weeks, but it's so much going on. That's why I've really tried to cut back in recent times in drinking because I'm like I can't afford a day where I'm just immobile, and these hangovers are not good.
Well,
No, they got worse. How did they get so bad?
it's because we're not. I know. I was listening to your other podcast with a Canada, and you mentioned the quarter beer nights
Yeah,
at some point, and I
yeah.
was like, I have. So when I was in school in college in Gainesville, there's a bowling alley down the street, and they had Quarter Mania. So it was like quarter bowling games, quarter beers, and if you wanted to get a pitcher of beer, it was like $2. So you know
You
where
get
I was
it.
every Monday.
Yep.
Didn't miss it. Didn't miss it. You know,
Yeah.
bowling, drinks, having a good time. Had to go to school the next day.
Exactly.
And
Oh,
it was like,
rough.
what was I doing?
No, no, exactly. No, it was, I don't know. And you would get up the next day and you would be totally fine. I mean, or you'd be like, oh man, I feel hungover. But now it's like, I can't walk 5 feet to get my DoorDash. You know, like it's not, they're rough. So I've been, but since I've got so much going on so many different platforms, levels, all of this, it's not even this, I mean, I want to drink, I want to have a good time, but it's definitely, I've had to start really considering, um, how much I'm drinking or how many beers I'm going to have because it's like, okay, tomorrow I've got all of this planned. But back then, man, college was a different time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we can still have fun. We can still
Yeah,
have fun. Just in moderation. Be
right.
considerate of yourself, considerate of others, and do everything in moderation because even good stuff done outside of moderation could be bad.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's, I watched that documentary on that guy who's trying to live to be whatever. Did you watch? It's on Netflix, and he's just like, I don't even know if he's living. Like it's crazy what he's doing. But anyways, we won't get into that. But you're right. He's trying to be the healthiest, but to an extreme, right?
Yes. And yeah, Auntie Ken, I go by Ken, Kenny, any pass my cup, whatever one floats the boat, feel free to call, whatever is easiest for you. Um well, I guess we got 3 more minutes for this hour sake.
Yeah,
Where are you on your beer? Are you almost done? Are
I'm
you halfway
almost done.
done?
I'm almost done. Yeah, I gotta. I'm feeling good. That's what I'm gonna say. It's great.
We're
It's
going
awesome.
we're going to be finished with the beers and we'll call it. But I guess this is your time to give the shameless plugs to yourself. How can people find you? How can people reach
Abs-
you?
This has been
Follow everything.
this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a good hour for sure. Like I said, I gotta mosey. Got so much more to do, but yeah, no. My name's Shanley Thompson. You can find me at shan.ferments.com, shan.ferments.substack.com, at shan.ferments here on Instagram. You can find me at Roy Farms. You can find me in Yakima for the entire month of September if anyone wants to visit a hop farm. I love visitors. Um, and you'll see me at CBC in Indianapolis. You'll see me probably on any given Friday, Saturday, or Sunday in the city of Seattle. Somewhere in the city of Seattle. So there's my shameless plugs. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for your time too. I do really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for your time and thank you for the insight. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for what you do for the community and for your community in the industry. And yes, and you're passionate about it too.
Thank you.
You're passionate about it. You geek out about it. You nerd out about it, and you have an understanding from like multiple aspects of the industry versus just one or two uh, aspects, which gives you a broader and more wide perception of things, and not to get all like whatever. Having a wider perception of things is better than just having like a narrow perception of something because you're like so close minded and you're not open to the ideas of what else is out there.
Absolutely.
So
And thank you. I thank you for that. And I try. I'm an eternal optimist, if nothing else. But how was the rest of your cider? Mine was fantastic. How was
it
yours? You're done.
was good. It was good. I got the 6 pack, so I'm definitely gonna be having another one of these or whatnot. I guess I'll crack open this this Unibrew. Well, we had. So, do you
Amazing.
have time for? Do you have like a speed round? Time?
What I got speed round time. I got two
Speed
minutes.
round time. All right, cool. Bet. Um, what's the beer scene and beer community like in Washington versus Canada?
Definitely different. Definitely both extremely welcoming.
Okay. How is the freelance taking the beer journey in the freelance type of way? So like education.
It's hard.
Okay.
It's not easy. Yeah, because there's a lot of people. It's a big community, but there's not. It's definitely it's a hard gig, and I know a lot of freelancers who might probably even know more than I do, and they can get jobs, but it's not guaranteed. Um, it can be difficult. It's difficult, and I'm very lucky that I work for an amazing farm, and I can do freelance as a hobby and a fun thing. But there's folks out there, and I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head to give them a plug, but I don't know. But it's not easy in this industry for sure, especially as a freelancer.
Okay. And one last question, because your hair is always popping.
Thank you.
What's what's the hair care treatment, if
Oh, it's
there
so
is any?
expensive. It's so expensive. No, I use Pattern. It's at Sephora. It's done by Tracy. Shit, what's her last name? She's that amazing actress. Anyways, killer product. I use the intensive moisturizer. This gets washed every 2 weeks. It's so much money, like $100 a month
Yeah.
at least on hair care products.
Mm.
It's insane. It's insane. But thank you. I appreciate it. It hasn't been cut in a while, but you know. That's why I live in Seattle too. The humidity works for me. Florida, it gets crazy. Last time I was there, it was out to it was big.
I prefer the humidity over the dry heat, in my personal experience. Because it's like with dry heat, you don't sweat, and everyone's like, I like not sweating. I'm like, do you not know sweating is your body's
Yes.
natural AC? It's your body. So when you're all sweating, yeah, you're getting all sweaty and stuff, but at least your body's like naturally cooling itself down. But when you're in dry heat, it's like you're not sweating, but it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would say it's more of a dry heat, but I love the weather here. Like you get 1 or 2 days of 90-ish degrees, but it's mainly 75 degrees, maybe 80 during the summer, and that's as someone from Canada, I appreciate it. I like my moderate temps.
And then also, couple more questions.
Yep.
Canadian, are you a hockey fan?
Yes. Winnipeg Jets. Go Jets.
Go Jets.
Absolutely.
They got to
Yeah.
come see the Panthers, though. They got to come
I
see the
know. I
Panthers when it's
know.
time. I wish I could keep the
Absolutely.
games. Absolutely enjoy myself. Um, and then I talked about your favorite non-alcoholic fermented drink. What's your favorite fermented drink? Alcoholic,
Beer.
alcoholic fermented beverage.
Beer.
Beer.
Depending on the beer, but definitely a Italian Pilsner, a West Coast Pils. Perfect. Definitely
So
my
you
favorite.
take, so you're taking beer over wine.
Depends on the day, but yes. Yes.
Okay.
A
And then
heavy red though, I do like myself a Napa Cab or a Yakima Cab, like a big dry red for sure.
nice. See, I'm getting my feet wet in the wine game, so I'm
Hmm.
sticking to the
Hmm.
whites for right now. I've had a few reds that I was able to like really enjoy, but it's coming few and none. Every blue moon
Sure.
that I come across one. And then last question for the speed
Yeah.
round. Um, educational wise, because I know you like to travel. I heard you like to travel. Educational wise, where if you can go anywhere in the world for a month, where would you go for beer? Where would you go for wine?
Great questions. Beer, I'd like to spend more time. That's a really good question. Definitely, there's some hot spots I've wanted to go. I've been to New Zealand, Australia. The Japanese have a really cool scene.
Mm.
I've been to China. The Chinese have a really cool scene. I haven't been to Korea. I'd like to check out their scene for beer for sure. And I'm sure some of the Eastern European countries have some really cool stuff going on. And I would say for wine, South Africa's got a really cool area that I would like to check out. And same with, I have not been to Portugal yet. That would be cool. I like Scotland for whiskey for sure. But yeah, I've been to Scotland. They've got in Edinburgh, they've got the Scotch whiskey experience. And it literally is like you sit in a barrel like you are at Disney World on a track. And like you go through like the history of whiskey and it's so cheesy. And you're like seeing like this dumb like it's a small world, but it's like the history of whiskey. It's so funny. If anyone goes, it's like right in like the touristy part of Edinburgh. So definitely check that out. But yeah, I would say Portugal would be cool for wine. I would love to go. I'm hoping I can get there this year. And then yeah, I would love to check out Korea for their beer. Um, yeah, I think that would be it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Shan. I did not want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a busy,
Thank
busy,
you.
busy woman. So everyone, thank y'all for tuning in. Catch me next week with another amazing guest. And shout out to Women History Month. That's why
Yeah,
we rocking
yeah, I
out.
love that. I love
The
that.
amazing
Thanks so
women.
much for your time.
No
I really appreciate it. This is
problem,
fun.
no problem, no problem. And we definitely gonna have to link up again for sure, for
Definitely.
sure. Um,
Absolutely. No,
I'll
appreciate
be
it.
hitting meetings or whatnot and see if we could put something together real quick.
I like that. I like that. We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Awesome. Well, I got to jump, but I'll see you guys later. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice one.
You
Enjoy.
too.
Everyone,
Bye.
y'all tune in. Make sure y'all tune in every Wednesdays, Happy Hour Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. EST. We sit down, have a few drinks, have a discussion, have a conversation with amazing folks, and also with you all too in the comment section. But yeah, like I said, y'all make sure y'all tune in next week, and we out.